Welcome to Ben's Guide. Kindly been sponsored today by vansigns with a z.co.uk. Today, with the aid of photographs, I'm going to show you how I mended the passenger side heater flap on a Peugeot 407. I'm not advising you to follow my instructions, and I take no responsibility or won't be held responsible for any loss, financial or otherwise. If you decide to do this yourself, it's entirely up to you. I just really wanted to let people know how I did it, that's all. It's a 2005 model and it has dual mode heating, which means that the driver and passenger sides can be controlled independently from each other. I imagine that you're watching this because you've probably had the same trouble that I had with my Peugeot 407. The heating basically packs up work in one side, you can't adjust it, and it's basically because the heater flap will have broken or the motor will have stopped working. It's probably best to check that the motor's not broken first, because that will save you doing the rest of this video. Firstly, I slid the seat back as far as I could and I removed the glove box. It's about 3 or 4 screws from memory. This served to give a clearer view in what is quite a confined space. With the ignition on, I disconnected the terminals on the top motor to keep the top flap open, and then I turned off the ignition. This keeps the top flap from closing. I then removed the bottom motor, which is in the picture, and you can see the terminal on the bottom. And this is the view of the heater shaft after the bottom motor has been removed. Here's a picture just to show you what I did with the hacksaw. I just cut the back end of it off so to make a little point, and I made it so that the cut direction was as you pulled at it. I drilled 4 holes because I was going to cut a quarter of the segment out, and then I proceeded to put the hacksaw in and just gently pull on the hacksaw in order to start cutting all the way around. The plastic's quite thin, it's not hard to cut into, it's just a bit inaccessible, that's all. The highlighted area shows the area that I planned to cut out at the start. As it turned out, I had to cut a bit more out, but it doesn't matter, just keep all the pieces and you can just glue it all back together again. It doesn't matter if it looks aesthetically beautiful, because it won't. You won't see it once you put all the glove box back in anyway. Just make sure that you save all the bits. Right, here comes the fun bit. After you've made the hole big enough, you then have to wrestle the heater flap out through the hole. This shows the 2 parts that were broken in mine. The broken off piece is the piece where the motor fits, so that's the closest bit to you before you take it to pieces. There are a lot of methods on the internet for repairing this. I chose to use 5-minute araldite and to whip it or wrap it with twine. Once the glue sets, this is an incredibly strong repair. It's torsionally strong, but it has a bit of give too, and it seems to work really well. Here's a close-up of the repair. It's not very pretty, but it definitely did the job. When it had all dried, I carefully slid the flap back in, got the motor and turned the ignition on to visualise its movement, and made sure everything would rotate in the direction it was meant to go in. When I was happy that everything would turn in the direction it should do, and that the flap was back in the right place to take the motor cog, I then found all of the case bits, and I had a happy 20 minutes gluing them all back together. This was a bit messy. This shows the casing all glued back together, waiting for the motor to be fitted back on. I let it all set for a couple of hours, and then I put it all back in reverse order. I refitted the motor again, and refitted the electrical terminal to it, and basically prayed when I turned the ignition back on. It worked very well, and it still does work. If you want a written transcript of this, I've also done a website. Here's the address, and I'll put a link in the bottom for you. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. Until next time, goodbye.